All right, so today I am joined by Dave and Ryan from TaxCloud, wonderful partners of ours, and we're going to be talking through sales tax in 2025, how to simplify the process of sales tax, and I guess by extension, simplifying your books as you go into the new year. Um, so a little bit about our speakers. If you don't know me, I'm John May. I am the voice and face, whether I like it or not, of Webgility. If you've seen any of our YouTube content in the past couple of years, been to any of our webinars, you probably have seen me. I've been with Webgility for just about 4 years, a little over 4 years. I started out in implementation and sort of went back and forth in different places in Webgility as sort of a product expert. So I am here to speak on behalf of the e-commerce side of things. I will let Ryan and Dave introduce themselves. Take it away.
Yeah, I'll jump in first. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Really excited to be here and to see already in the chat all the activity. I'm from Ryan from TaxCloud. I've been working in the e-commerce space, working with small, mid-sized businesses, really mostly through my whole career. So 15 years or so now. I've been fortunate to help run a few companies that help businesses selling on Shopify and have joined TaxCloud over the last year, and I'm excited to be part of the journey here as well. And so, really excited to talk to you about kind of sales tax and what we're seeing as a company that's spent the last 10 plus years in the sales tax space, and hear more about all of you as well. So, cool. Yeah, Dave, you want to just do a quick intro?
You bet. So I'm Dave, the product manager for integrations at TaxCloud, and I also joined in the last year, so relatively new here and excited to be showcasing our relatively new QuickBooks Online integration that we've been working hard on, and we've learned a lot from our customers on it. So excited to show the progress and where we're going in the future.
Awesome. And we can jump right into it. So for the agenda today, just a little bit about Webgility and TaxCloud, what we do, why it's relevant to the whole conversation of sales tax and e-commerce and how they relate to each other. And then we'll get into the meat and potatoes. So the sales tax considerations for 2025, what to watch for when it comes to sales tax and what's changing this year, and then how to prepare for those changes outright for your business. From there, we'll get into a little bit about how to choose the right partner when it comes to your sales tax workflow, case study, and then a quick demo from Dave. I know he just mentioned the new integration that TaxCloud has. All right, and I'll let Ryan, if you want to take it away on the quick about.
Yeah, we want to go through this pretty quick. We don't want this to be all about TaxCloud here, but I know we just have both audiences. Some folks who have been following Webgility for a while, and some folks who might be new to TaxCloud. But we've had, like I said, we're a software provider that's been in the space for 15 plus years. We do sales tax automation. We consider ourselves to be a right size sales tax solution for growing brands. And so what that means is we really handle all things on the sales tax side, from calculation, tracking your nexus, if you need to get registered in states, and of course filing. And so today we have over 2,000 brands using us across really all of the major e-commerce platforms, as well as Shopify, as well as QuickBooks on the ERP side. So that's our story, and we'll be talking a bit about our solutions today, but obviously want to just talk about sales tax in general as well, and share some of our expertise with you as well.
Awesome. Yeah, much appreciated expertise. Tax is confusing. So, about Webgility, for those of you who don't know, like TaxCloud, we've been in the industry and led the accounting automation space for over a decade. For a very long time, we were the premier solution, and still are, I would say, for QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop users. 25 plus integrations across sales channels, shipping partners, and payment gateways as well. And then, most notably, some of the big recent things that are relevant in the space are our Lightspeed POS X series integration, and then the TikTok Shop sort of pseudo integration. There's an asterisk there because we don't have a direct integration with TikTok yet, but you can sort of go through Shopify to connect your TikTok, so it's still a possibility. All right, and I think that's a good segue into the first part. I wanted to lead with e-commerce considerations for 2025 because I think that a lot of the tax changes come about because of the shifting landscape in both the brick and mortar retail space and the digital space. So when it comes to the rest of this year, when we look at e-commerce as an industry and look at the changes that are happening, what are the biggest things that stand out right now? These are things like augmented reality shopping, so things like social commerce where you can pay to try on outfits. Really weird new, I guess, ventures in the e-commerce space. These are going to affect business to business and business to consumer businesses pretty substantially in the way that they look at their tax code. And really, a common theme throughout any of these changes is going to be that it's going to get more complex, right? So, a couple questions you should be asking yourself: have you taken advantage of AI yet? AI obviously has been a big topic of conversation for the past couple of years, but it's only going to get more intense. And if you're able to take advantage of it for your website in any or for your store in any way, a customizable order pricing option is something that maybe you could look at doing. But again, the common theme here is that all these things are going to make your tax compliance a little bit more complex. Same thing with the blockchain, crypto. It's going to be more and more prevalent as time goes on. Whether or not you use the blockchain or have any interest in crypto or accepting crypto payments, it is something that the industry is going to pick up on more and more. And then the last thing, and this is very well relevant for Webgility and TaxCloud, but how interconnected are all of your channels and your stores or your systems? Obviously, TaxCloud and Webgility, a big part of our business is just making sure that things are connected and that information flows freely between your system of record and your stores or whatever you have connected. But again, more channels means more complexity. What does that mean for your taxes? All right, and then that leads us to the tax considerations.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, so we are at the start of the year. I know a lot of you, and I would love to hear in the chat how many of you are kind of business owners yourselves, or working in the finance department of the businesses that you work on. We're coming out of what I expect is probably a very busy and time for your business. Hopefully, busy in a good way. And I think the start of the year is a great opportunity. Before we talk about broader changes in the tax codes or anything like that, to first, I think, at the start of the year, to think about what has changed in your own business over the last year, because that's going to have a significant impact on where you're going to have obligations on the tax side. And so, we recommend businesses at the start of the year and on a frequent basis throughout the year, try to check in and understand kind of how things are progressing for their businesses. So obviously, you're probably taking stock of your sales and orders and how the last year went. And so it's a good opportunity to look at that stuff and see, one, obviously celebrate your successes and all of that. But two, kind of understand both how much you're selling, but also how that selling will then obviously implicate the fact that you'll have some tax obligations in some of these states. And if you've seen significant changes or growth, or if you're entering new areas, this can be really important as you're thinking about your taxes, whether you're doing this through QuickBooks or you're doing it through any of the e-commerce other platforms you may be using today. Speaking to that, I think also taking a look at the different channels you're selling on and has that changed over the last year. I expect many of the customers we work in will have a mix of in-person POS, an e-commerce sale, and then doing invoices and things like that through QuickBooks. And in the e-commerce side, you may have a Shopify site or a BigCommerce site or a site that you built through any other e-commerce platform. But then you may also be selling products through marketplaces like Amazon or Etsy or eBay or any of these other places. And taking account of all these different channels, and one, understanding like your growth on these channels, but two, understanding where you expect to invest next year or now this year is going to be really important as you're kind of starting to look at tax solutions and understanding what you do or maybe don't need to be worried about in the new year here. And then the last thing you want to do is to make sure that you are aware of where you have nexus. And so we'll talk about nexus. I don't know how everyone's tax knowledge is on this call, but nexus basically means have you reached a determined threshold that says that you now are obligated to collect and remit tax in these different states or regions. And this can be different for every state. There'll be states that some it's a total order volume. Do you have so many transactions and now you'll be eligible to have to pay tax? In some cases, the total dollar amount. And so a lot of the business owners we talk to probably started selling in one small geography, expanded to multiple states, and now maybe they're selling all over the country because they had a great year or a great couple of years. And this stuff really starts to add up. And so being able to take account of that is great. Whether you're using a tool today or not, there are resources out there that can help you do that. Just today, right now, you could, while you're on this call, go open up your browser and search, nexus thresholds for every state. And that'll give you a pretty good direction of where you're at. And you could certainly look to solve that on your own. But we will certainly be talking about how you can solve that without doing it completely manually on your own as well. So all of this is going to be really important. And I think the big thing on the Nexus side is not just, hey, where am I at today? Has that changed? But also, hey, where am I nearing? If you know the next year is going to be a great year for sales, what is the next year going to look like for you? So now let's talk a little bit less about just what you have to worry about in your own business. And let's talk a bit about tax considerations and some of the things that we're seeing. So the big questions you're going to want to ask on the tax side, hopefully maybe you're already have enough sales that you're worrying about sales tax in a few different states. Maybe I assume this isn't the top priority as you start the year. But if you're going to sit down and say, hey, I really want to get a good handle on what we need to be worrying about on the tax side this year, there's 3 questions I would prioritize for you. One, have tax rates changed in any of the places that you sell? And so obviously, if you're doing this completely on your own, I would recommend just doing that at the state level. You could go and start with the state where you're physical nexus today, and you could probably just search and see, hey, here in Massachusetts has tax rates change. But one, there's a rates, because those will change for the year based on what the states and jurisdictions are prioritizing for their own revenue base. And so sometimes they'll be lowering sales tax or increasing sales tax because of what they're seeing in other different taxes in the states. And that should be an important consideration. The other thing is, have these rules I just talked about, have those changed? So believe it or not, these also can change on a year-to-year basis. And so one of the big trends we're seeing is that many states at one point you had to have 2 of the criteria, number of orders and total sales volumes, and you had to meet both of those if you were going to be required to pay sales tax. Well, many states are doing away with one or the other of those. And so maybe you're paying sales tax in a state before because you thought you had threshold, had nexus, but maybe you don't today, or vice versa. So understanding how these rules have changed, and we'll give some examples of those. So we'll give you some of that information today, will also be really important. And then a really key thing, particularly if you're selling products that were exemptions. So exemptions are products that do not need to be taxed. Have any individual products that you sell been impacted by changes in exemptions? And this, again, I think a lot of people are surprised, can really change a lot from year to year. There's a lot of reasons for that. Things that are happening at the governmental level, just different trends we're seeing throughout the world. As an example, we'll talk today about a state who's now, diapers for babies are now exempt, right? And I'm sure that there's probably reasons within that state that they decided to make that choice to lessen the tax burden or anything, of that mind. So these are all things that you just have to be aware of, particularly if you're selling a wide variety of products. If you have a very narrow focus, you probably have a good idea about this, but it's something you need to be mindful of. So let's actually get into some of the specifics of some of what we've seen. And if you go to the next slide here, the good news is we won't go over all 500 of these, but we did an accounting and we found that the number we saw is over 500 state and local tax changes in 2024 alone. And that may sound hard to believe, but I said before, you could just go look at your individual state, but search a different state, maybe that's not your state, and see, hey, have there been any sales tax changes this year? And what you'll probably find is that maybe there hasn't been something at the state level, but there's been all of these different changes at the jurisdiction level, because cities and jurisdictions and counties all have their own ability to impact the tax codes in their jurisdictions as well. And so when we go to the next slide here, I'll give you some examples of this just so you can kind of see what we're talking about. So I mentioned there could be changes on the tax rates. So Louisiana, for example, they initially were going to increase the sales tax rate from 4.45% to 5% for just physical products. They actually recently added on to that it will also include digital products. And so that went into effect at the start of this year. I mentioned the changes in the nexus threshold. So Alaska, as an example, they had a 200 transaction threshold and a total sales threshold. They're now removing the 200 transaction threshold. And they're not alone. I think there's at least 3 or 4 other states over the last year or so that have also indicated that they're going to go down that route if they haven't already gone down that route already. Virginia, the other thing we haven't talked quite about, but it's there's also this concept of tax holidays. And so you've probably seen that in your own just shopping as a consumer, that there'll be times where there'll be kind of sales holidays and there'll be opportunities for that. Virginia this past year established an annual summer sales tax holiday, which it didn't have before. And so now if you're a consumer in Virginia, you're probably really happy. But if you're a business with Nexus in Virginia, there's new consideration that you'll have to keep in mind there as well. And then, these last 3 examples I'll talk about here, this is what I was talking about when it came to exemptions. So there'll be different situations where there'll start to be exemptions on products that were not exempt prior. And so in South Carolina, for example, feminine hygiene products are now exempt. Kansas, they have dropped the sales tax on groceries, which just went into effect in January. In Nevada, they're, as I was mentioning before, this was the example I was talking to, they've now made diapers exempt, which is great for families. And these are things that you need to be aware of. But this is the sort of situation that, businesses at a lot of different scale will have to think about, particularly if you're selling all these different products and if you have Nexus in these states today. And so as we transition on to the next slide here, all of this comes together and to kind of apply and say, hey, okay, how are we going to prepare and handle all of this, right? There's a lot here that you could be thinking about. And so today we're going to talk really specific about QuickBooks, because I know a lot of folks here are on QuickBooks. You're sending invoices through QuickBooks. This is an important part of how you're thinking about sales tax. And then we'll start to get a little more specific about this. But this should be able to translate to most of the other platforms that you're selling on as well already. And so if QuickBooks is just part of where you're selling, you can think about this in other channels as well. So from the QuickBooks side, there's how do you go and try to solve all these problems? So one, the great thing is that a lot of these platforms will have native tools that you can use. And so you may already, I'd be interested to hear from folks, like if you're already using these tools. There are tax tools within QuickBooks where you can add calculate a tax rate and apply it to the document you're creating. And these tools are great when you're starting out because you can kind of get that done quickly. And there's a lot of benefit to that. But I think what you'll start to find, particularly if you have any kind of complex tax needs throughout the year, that tailoring that and customizing that can be pretty limited. And the automation that's part of those tools beyond just the calculation can also be pretty limited for you. And then the last thing is that if you have really like services-based needs, so if you need to get registered in particular states, if you need someone to really handle your filing for you and automate your filing for you on either a monthly or quarterly basis, they will give you the reports to go do that. But to actually get all of that done, you can't solely rely just on the QuickBooks platform for that, particularly if you're multi-state and have a lot of different needs. And so again, it's a great place to start. The other route a lot of folks will go is then just to start to outsource everything and just say, this is too much for me. And that certainly is a great route to go. The benefits there are that it's exactly that. You can have a great partner. A lot of the businesses that we work with do go that route, and we are excited and happy to partner with CPAs and accounting firms. It's a big part of what we offer today. If you are in that bucket and you'd like to talk more about how we could partner, I would love to hear from you, because that's a big part of what I do every day. But you know, that they can take care of that for you. The limitations there is that for there's obviously a cost. And for a lot of the businesses that we talk to, a lot of accounts we talk to, sales tax is not their bread and butter. It's not the thing that they live and breathe and work on every day. And so generally what they're having to do is actually rely on a partner, software partner, to help them get a lot of this done as well. And so, you know, there are some trade-offs there as well. And then the third thing you can do is to invest in a platform that will help automate all of the different stuff we talked about today, and completely separate it from your day-to-day thinking and operating. And that's really where the benefit of tools like TaxCloud come in. Now, I don't want this to feel too much like just a pitch for TaxCloud, because as I was saying, I think there's benefits of each of these different approaches. But if you are looking at a solution like this, the few things you'll want to, that why you would do it. One, there's certainly can be cost savings for you. There's a cost associated with all of these tools, but the time and energy that goes into this is definitely important. Automation is a big part of what this works. As you grow and scale and go to new states, with a click of a button, you can really unlock your tax support in all these states, and that's a really important part of why people choose solutions, whether you use TaxCloud or any other provider that's out there on the market. And tools like what we offer are designed to do these real-time updates. So, you know, the tax rate in Louisiana goes up to 5% in January. You can be confident that these tools are going to make sure that's being applied, so that you can sleep well at night and know that you're not going to run into any issues down the road. And so when it comes to limitations, you have to be willing to go through some of the work to get these things set up. And it's an important part of what you want to go do. The other thing to think about with these tools is that if you're selling on multiple channels, you know, there'll be work to integrate in all of these tools. And so that initial setup is probably the biggest barrier to entry for a lot of folks. The reason why at TaxCloud we really specialize in really hands-on service and onboarding is because we believe that's an important part of what we offer. And that can come at a pretty steep cost with some other tools. So that's just something to be mindful of as well. And so generally what we see, just to kind of wrap this up, is that how most people do this is they go through this evolution we talked about, and then they're combining some of these solutions together. And so if you can afford it and you find value in it, we certainly recommend working with a CPA that can help you out. Pairing that with a solution like TaxCloud can be a great combination to help you, you know, run your business and sleep well at night and have peace of mind as it comes to your sales tax. So as we kind of transition here,
and actually, I wanted to take a beat real quick and
John.
And kind of point out that this is, I know we're talking about sales tax specifically, but I think this evolution applies not only to your tax solution, but to any sort of integration software, anything that you're looking to use to sort of enhance your workflow within your business. It's the same sort of conversation, right? Like you start out and it's just you, if you're the business owner, I guess at least. But if you're just starting out, you're likely doing everything on your own, and it's a small team of people, and you're kind of, you know, doing everything by hand. And then as you progress, as you grow, you start to integrate more things into your workflow and grow as a business and scale. And I think, to your point, Ryan, the part about integrating as well as using a professional outsourced is a lot of the times the perfect solution, right? Because you're getting to a point where you can't have the cognitive burden of doing all that work yourself, or maybe you don't have somebody on staff that can kind of handle all those curveballs, especially to the scale that maybe selling across the US does. But then on top of that, having a software that kind of makes that entire process a lot easier for you is paramount, I think. So everything that you just said is echoed 100% by Webgility and what we do. Very, very similar thought process on our end as well. Making sure that the initial setup is always the more complicated part. Obviously, when you have a lot of moving parts, you need to make sure that they're all set up correctly to kind of keep the flow of information moving correctly. But yeah, I think the evolution of it all is the biggest point here, that you could be at any one of these pillars in your journey as a business. But understanding where you want to go and how to get there efficiently, I think is the most important part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
Cool. And how do you choose the right partner? I guess we could start since my point's first. So for choosing a connector, on speaking from Webgility's experience, on the QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop connector from your sales channels to your source of truth, to your accounting. What you want to look for is the ability to kind of flex into whatever you're trying to do, whatever workflows you're working with. You want to sort of meet it halfway. Maybe you have some rigid, really old workflows that you have set up in your business for fulfillment or for orders and recording, stuff like that. There's going to be a little bit of a push and pull when you're looking for something to integrate with, unless you're just doing everything by the book. A lot of times it'll be just like kind of a plug and play situation. But look for something that has the functionality to be able to flex into the workflows that you need. It might seem a lot more complicated at first, but all those settings and menus and things that are available to you will give you that flexibility if you do run into issues or weird situations in the future. Make sure they connect with all of your channels, or the channels that you want to start. So I know I mentioned TikTok Shop as one of those new integrations up and coming. Same with Lightspeed POS, with the I guess the dawn of the sunsetting of QuickBooks POS. A lot of people were left wondering where to go from there. So Lightspeed is a natural option. So understanding that not every integration, not every automation software is going to have all of those connections that you need. Look for the ones that do have those connections that you already have and ones that you plan on growing into. And then, can it handle everything that you have? So can it handle your expenses, your fees, orders, everything that you need to kind of get that complete package? Or are you just pulling in orders and you're kind of left without that cost of goods sold information? You're left without maybe some of that more important tax information to pull into QuickBooks. Does it have the reporting capabilities that you need? Are you a reporting, like, are you a data nerd? Do you like to see your data on a daily basis and understand where your business is at from like a snapshot pinpoint? And then I think one of the most important things is being able to have that support when you need it. Are they, is the partner that you're working with going to be able to fix the issues that you have in a timely manner? Are they going to be able to change their software, whether that's a paid service or not, to be able to accommodate maybe a weird workflow that you have? I think all these things are really good questions to ask yourself when you're looking at not even just a QuickBooks connector, but any sort of software that you're looking to maybe try out or integrate into your business. I think asking these questions is really important.
Awesome. Yeah, and we so much of what you spoke to there, I think, has translated to within our world as well. Beyond the connectors you work with, I'd love to just talk a bit about on the sales tax solution what we generally say and recommend. And again, we come into this knowing there's a lot of tools out there you could be using. I would love if anyone's willing to share in the chat the sales tax tool that you're using today, if you are using a tool, and that would be helpful for us also to understand, how to, speak to the demo and what we're able to offer today. But there's a lot of tools out there that can help you with this. And as I mentioned, you can use the QuickBooks solution, which we talked about. But if you're going to bring in a provider like a TaxCloud, there's a few things that you'll want to keep in mind. One, you really want to have a provider that can help you on the calculation side, provide real-time sales tax calculation. I think particularly within QuickBooks, when you're looking at trying to manage all of your invoices or orders or anything that you're doing in there, to be able to automatically calculate sales tax based on the customer's address that you have that you're sending to is just an enormous time saver for you, and it's really important. And so if you have a tool today, there are tools out there that really just specialize on the filing side, but aren't going to really help you on the calculation side. If you don't have a solution there that you really feel good about, the rates that you're getting, I would highly recommend looking at tools that give you that confidence. And whether you're talking to a vendor like us or you're talking to a vendor somewhere else, ask them about what they can offer on the real-time side and how reliable that is. And look at the reviews that are out there about what's happening when people are going to do calculations. That's really important and that you want to see. Two is, do they actually offer an integration with QuickBooks Online? Because surprisingly, a lot of these tools won't actually offer native integration, and you'll do a lot of manual work to get it in there. We can speak somewhat from experience because there was a time in our evolution as a company where we didn't offer that native integration, and we know that for a lot of customers it did create some additional work. We're thrilled that we now have that native integration, which we'll be showing today. But that's an important part of this as well. Just make sure you're aware of the manual work that will go into it if the tool you're using doesn't have that automated integration. And then a big part of this is there'll be tools that will specialize on one platform or the other, but do you have a tool that can take in orders from multiple channels, as we talked about? And so a great example of this will be, you're using that e-commerce platform and you have sales there, and then you are using a QuickBooks. Well, you're going to get different reporting in QuickBooks, and you'll have different reporting in Shopify. But to have one source of truth that will tell you, take all those orders in and clearly show you where you have nexus and where you're reaching these thresholds and where you're compliant or not, is really a value add. And when you layer in additional channels you may be selling onto that, that added complexity becomes really important to have a solution that can handle all of that on your behalf. And so important to kind of ask those questions about the integrations that they support outside of just within QuickBooks today. And you really want to rely on the expertise in the situation. You should really go with a solution, not just because it's a great software that you can sign up for and get access to and feel good about it's doing all the great things you want it to do. But when you're having a problem and you're getting a notice from a state about a tax issue, that you have a partner you can pick up the phone and call, it's going to be really important. And be mindful of that as you're looking at different vendors that are out there. A lot of vendors will offer that at a very steep price, and some vendors will offer it as part of your service built in. That's what we do here at TaxCloud, is we make the service free to any user who's on our platform. And so just keep that in mind as you're navigating this as well. And an important consideration, we didn't talk much about the SST program, the Streamline Sales Tax program. But if you're not aware of that, this is a program that actually allows you to file and handle sales tax in 24 states, all through one reporting mechanism. And this is really important because if you're using a provider, one, you want to see, are they certified? There's only a select number of certified providers. If a provider is not certified, that's probably an indication that they may not be the right tool to meet your need. But also, are they passing on the savings they get from this program onto you? And so for TaxCloud, for example, we're not going to charge you for all the states. If you're filing in SST states, we actually won't charge you for the orders in those states because we're getting benefit from working with the SST program, and we pass that savings on to you, which could be an enormous saver for a business that's selling, particularly if you're selling in any of the SST states and have Nexus. So just wanted to flag that as well. So I think now we're just going to quickly transition. I think next we'll be talking about our, just as an example in action. And I know a lot of people are eager to get to the tools. And so I just wanted to quickly give an example of a business that we just worked with. Worx Printing, they're actually a Massachusetts-based company right in my backyard here. And they were able to save about 50% of the time they were spending on sales tax after switching to TaxCloud and our real-time integration with QuickBooks Online. And prior to this, they went on that journey we talked about. They had come in, they had used some of the QuickBooks tools, they had worked with a CPA, they had kind of said, this is too complex here, try to take this on for us. And they ended up still having to do a lot of the manual work that was needed to get there. And so just bringing on a tool just became a huge tax savings and a huge time saving for them. And I think in the next slide, we have a quote from the customer we work with here, where they actually told us that we were the right size solution for them. They had looked at some other alert tools out there and decided that we were the right fit for them. And that, knowing that we've been able to deliver for them has been really an important thing. And the fact they were able to speak to us and share their story was great validation of that. And so we want to transition to now is to actually see what this integration looks like today. We have Dave here, who's kind of been leading this integration for us. And we'll speak to both the integration and how our evolution as a company has happened in implementing this. What we have found is that in the sales tax space, the QuickBooks App Store is an amazing place to find solutions. But what you'll find there in a lot of places is solutions that have not been meeting the needs of customers. And so we're really excited to talk about what we've been able to build there. So Dave, I think this will be your cue to take it away.
Sounds good. Let me just share my screen here. And give me a moment. Hopefully this works on the first go here. I just installed Zoom, so it's making me do the permissions dance. I should have tried that before, but that's the joy of the live demo. Okay. Now let's see if that will work. All right. Let me know if you can see the invoice that I'm sharing here. Good. Okay, cool. So I've got an invoice here in my QuickBooks Online account that I've set up to show you how our tax calculation works. I've got a couple of line items here, and I've already picked a TaxCloud 0% rate down in the tax area. And this is just a little safety measure to make sure that QuickBooks doesn't try to slap tax on in addition to what we're doing. I have disabled the automated sales tax system already, so this is just an extra insurance measure, actually. And I also have a ship to and ship from address. That's important because that's how we know how to calculate the tax. So I've made my changes and I've saved. And so now I can go up into our extension, browser extension, that gives me control over when tax is calculated. This is really something that's unique to our offering, QuickBooks Online. Some of you that are on our using a competitor solution might have run into some struggles with their solution, and we actually had similar learnings when we first released our integration. We basically found that without this giving the control to you, the customer, about when tax is calculated, and just caused some problems and errors and inconsistencies. So I believe this is a unique solution in the market and one that we listen to our customers to figure out this is where we needed to go. So if I click calculate tax here, that will go reach out to our system and get the real-time tax and then reload the invoice for me. And when it reloads, I'll scroll back down and close this. Now you'll see new line items for the sales tax. So we've got a new tax line item for each original line item that we had on the invoice. And if I was going to change this or maybe add another line item, let's say I do another beard comb here, and I'll do 5. I can save that. Oh yeah, this is actually a artifact of QuickBooks Online. If you leave a field too fast and save, it gets a little cranky. So that's actually nothing to do with our integration. But I'm going to save that again. And now I'm going to calculate tax. And it'll update the form here. And now we've got an additional sales tax line item for the change I made. So you can continue to do this and make edits and changes. After you save, you'll just want to go in there and click calculate tax, and that's what will cause tax to get added to the invoice. If you haven't used a tax solution for QuickBooks before, you might be wondering why we're using separate line items here and not plugging into this tax area. That's something that all third-party tax providers need to deal with. QuickBooks doesn't actually let third parties put in tax info here, and so that's why we're adding individual line items so you can still see the tax implication. And I want to dig into a little bit of why the browser extension is so important to the experience. So early on, when we first had our integration in beta, we originally just automatically calculated tax when you saved. That was great in some ways, but the downside there is if you wanted to keep editing and like make further changes, you'd have to reload the invoice before doing so because the version that you had open wasn't current anymore. We would automatically add tax in the background, and then you need to refresh. So that added quite a bit of extra friction for folks that are used to getting in their invoice, editing, saving, making more changes, saving. And so to try to meet our customers where they are and not interrupt their existing invoicing workflows, we've arrived at this browser integration solution where you get to decide when tax gets added. So that's our solution today. We have support for invoicing currently, and this quarter we're also going to be adding support for other QuickBooks document types that have tax. So that'll include estimates, sales receipts, credit memos, and refund receipts. And if you're a company that uses estimates for now, one way we've had our existing customers continue to work with this solution is to just let customers know that the tax won't show up on the estimate, but it will show up on the invoice. So that other stuff is coming real soon. And yep, I guess we're at time there. So I will yield back the screen here and we'll hand it back to you, John.
Awesome, thanks. Let me share my screen now. Boom. So we could just talk through some key takeaways here. I mean, ultimately, the conversation is extremely simple, right? Regardless of how complex the intricacies of sales tax are, the conversation is you need to understand what your needs are for taxes in 2025. If you sell across state lines in multiple states, it is your responsibility as a business to make sure that you are, meeting nexus in certain areas and staying compliant in those areas. From there, the next point becomes making sure that your systems work together rather than against each other. So if you have systems already that do your tax calculations, if you have a partner already, if you have something that pulls in your sales tax from your sales channels and puts them into QuickBooks, make sure that all of that is running, I guess, cleanly. It's a good spring cleaning, I guess, task there. And then from there, if you don't have a partner, if you don't have a solution that's automating this process for you and kind of taking care of that sales tax aspects for you, explore your options, understand what options are out there. Obviously, coming from Webgility and TaxCloud, we are providers in this space, so we have a little bit of a vested interest here. But hopefully, at least this gives you some sort of a jumping off point to understand where you want to go and how you want to kind of build out your tech stack, so to speak. And then something that I like to say is just automate as much as you can or automate everything. It's a little more concise to say automate everything. But the more that you have working with you and the more that you have kind of pulling information automatically from your stores and like Dave just showed, using the extension to pull in those tax rates automatically and make sure that the line items are all set up correctly, the less time you have to spend on all of these sort of mundane tasks. Sorry to those that this is the life work. But the less time that you have to spend on this, the more time that you can spend on the things that actually matter, which is like running the business, growing, scaling, ideating, the things that take a lot of brain power. So anything you wanted to add to that, Ryan?
No, I think it's really well said. I think what we really strive for here is like that we're handling sales tax, so you don't have to. And so much of what we covered today would ideally be stuff that you don't have to think about with the right provider in place. And so I think that's probably the biggest takeaway is that ideally, as we're sharing all this knowledge and wanting folks to be informed and aware of it, at the end of the day, there's solutions out there that can help automate that. And it's great to be able to show off our QuickBooks integration and to give you we could certainly, if folks have questions after the fact or want to see more in the solution or see what does it actually look like for us to track your nexus and all of that, we have tools how to do that as well. So we really specialize in service and want to be here for you to help answer any questions you have, and just appreciate folks taking the time to listen.